welcome you to this interview in the series that is all about unleashing the audacious woman within. Today, I am so excited to bring to you Alexis Cohen. Alexis is a visionary artist. She is a creative empowerment mentor. She's a shamanic practitioner, and she has the most amazing gift for supporting women to really heal and strengthen their connection to their intuition. She is also a master at providing a space, creating a space for women to play, to surrender, and to bring out the beautiful, creative, feminine power that is lying within. Welcome, Alexis, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is a treat.
This is such a treat. I've got to tell the audience that I met Alexis some time ago because she was one of my coaches when I was starting on my entrepreneurial journey. So to have this opportunity to connect with Alexis in this format is just such a thrill for me. Thanks, Alexis.
Thanks for having me.
So for those in the audience that haven't had the chance to meet Alexis yet, would you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you came to be doing the work that you do now?
Absolutely. I love this question because depending on the day, it's like, okay, I'm going to tell it from this angle and, you know, for this audience. So I'm an artist. I'm a multimedia artist, and I'm a healer, a shamanic practitioner, and a creativity coach. And I mean, I came to what I'm doing, I would say, when I was a little girl and, you know, really deeply immersed in nature and like listening to nature and writing stories. And my mom's an artist and making art that was very connected to my relationship to nature and the visible and the invisible world. So yeah, I feel like that's been going on my whole life. When I had my biggest initiation into like the artwork that I'm doing now happened when I felt really called to create a mural on my bedroom wall where I created this gigantic mural of a goddess. And it was like, I don't know, it was just this impulse to create it. Yeah. And as I was painting this piece of artwork that was so much bigger than anything I've ever done, like I was up on a ladder, it started to feel like this goddess that the painting was speaking to me. And she was actually telling me how to paint her. Yeah. And as I was working on her, it was just this feeling of being washed with love. And I was just like blown away between like what is possible, like what portals and doorways can be opened up through painting. Yeah. And I created this piece of art and I was like dragging people into the room. Like, so my now husband, I was like, is this painting speaking to you? And he said, yeah, it is. It's like giving me a message right now. And so I just started getting really curious about the power of art and the healing powers, the transformational powers that can happen through creativity and through painting. Yeah. And I started like sharing this experience with a couple of friends. And one in particular said, hey, I think you should check out my teachers. They teach shamanism. Yeah. And so do you want me to share a little bit about what that is? Do. Yeah, sure. So shamanism it's earth-based wisdom, and it is the wisdom that is at the root of every religion and spiritual school. So what it is so like the shaman is the one that travels into the world of the unseen. It is a creative channel. So travels into the world of the unseen or spirit, and then comes back with visions, healings, and teachings for the tribe. Yeah. And I was just struck by the similarities between shamanism and the role of the shaman and the role of the artist. And actually, shamans are the artists as well. And there's been a really big resurgence of shamanism right now, because accessing the wisdom of the earth is so essential. So that's when I became a shamanic practitioner and an artist, and really just saw the weaving between healing and art making. And fast forward to now, that is what those are the journeys that I support people on today through various programs, as transformational art journeys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, as you were talking, I was thinking back to a very vivid memory I have when I was in about grade 4. Yeah. And I was sitting next to a girl called Debbie, who I still know. I wonder if she'll tune into this interview. But we had to draw a picture of a snowman. And I remember drawing the picture of a snowman and then getting really into drawing the snowflakes. And from the feedback I got a bit overboard. I had done these pictures or these snowflakes and then proudly presented it to the teacher, who gave me really negative feedback. And I think it was at that time that I completely shut down. I'm not good at this. So I just stopped. And really, I don't think I drew another thing or painted another thing unless I was in art class, from that really not wanting to do it or thinking that everything I did was bad, until my kids went to primary school. And then when they started drawing and colouring in, it was just such a fun thing. But I still was really a bit, I wanted to cover it up. I didn't want people to see it. Yeah. So I'm imagining that, the women listening to this, obviously not everybody in my audience is artists, but, I feel like this is something, and certainly with my children, creativity in school is just not part of what is given to us now. Mm-hmm. So for those in the audience that might be starting from scratch, this time that we're really in, and this series is about tapping back into our intuition and working out who we are and who we want to be. So I would love you to talk to us about how we can start to use art and creativity to tap into that. What's the thread? What's the link?
Yeah. Well, I think you're speaking right into it. It's that inner child. That inner child in us is so wise. And that story, unfortunately, is so common. It's incredible. It's a creative wound, it's a creative trauma that, I have like hundreds and hundreds of those stories from clients. Right. And so part of reclaiming your creative power is playing in that space. So absolutely, like if you have kids in your life, it's like sitting down and actually learning from them about how to create with wild abandon. And what I'll share about my story too is so I created that big mural, but at that time I didn't really consider myself a visual artist. My mom is a painter, and so I always compared myself to her. So I was willing to create something that wasn't pretty, because the impulse was stronger than my need for it to look right. So a lot of women that I work with are in that place where they haven't created in a really long time. And we're just going to play. We're going to get the crayons out, the markers out, what colors. And so it's all about intuition. So first and foremost, give yourself the permission to make something completely messy and make an ugly painting. You need to judge it that way. And scribble, how do kids go? How do kids create? And let yourself get messy and playful. And what ends up happening is it sparks the wisdom of that younger part of you, that creatively wise self that is holding all of the dreams that you have in your life, and so when you access that part, and this is the cool thing, I know a lot of people who are a little scared to access that part because of maybe some trauma that has happened as a child. I have experienced significant trauma as a child too. And this process, the creative power goes underneath it. It's like a doorway into your power. And there's an opportunity that if some stuff does come up that, from around what happened as a child, you can work with creativity to heal that trauma as well. So, it's really the space of playing, allowing yourself to get messy. Like just a prompt, like draw a flower. What would that look like? Draw a yellow flower. But yeah, just giving yourself that freedom to play.
Yeah. Part of, the whole premise of this series is not being restricted to prior ideas, and just love to, I love that you're giving women the space to play and just get messy and have fun with it. Oh my goodness. So, as an analyzer that likes to think about all the details, what do I need to do this? Do you find particularly that there are certain mediums that allow you to express this better? I'm thinking of grey pencils, textures, paints, crayons. Where do you start with it?
That's a great question. I think there's I am often inspired by the materials that I use. So I really think it's a very unique personal thing.
Yeah.
But what I want to say is whatever you find that is yummy to you.
Yeah.
So that might be a pen. Oh, I wish I had it here right now. There's this brush pen that I found that has inspired so much drawing, so many swirls and spirals and hearts. But so one, I would find a juicy pen that feels good in your hand. And you can just start out really, really, slowly. You can fill up a whole page full of hearts, or full of stars, and just use a pen that you really like. I'm not a fan of crayons, but sometimes people are. So maybe you get a set of really saturated, juicy markers, brush pens that you like. I'm a fan of watercolors. Sometimes people can get a little intimidated by it, but if you allow yourself to get messy with the water, and so sometimes with watercolors, what I'll do is I'll just wash it, and then I'll kind of turn it and over again so the water drips, just like you would kids do, right? And just allow yourself to play with that material. Acrylics, I actually find acrylics still to this day quite challenging. So if you just want to get into that play space, if you do use acrylics, just make them really watery, so you can kind of allow it to get messy.
Yeah.
And then another tip that I'll just give you is that if you're using acrylics or paint or whatever, layering is the key. Sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to nail it right when we get out of the gates. If you just allow yourself to keep layering on the piece, it allows all of that perfectionism to melt away. Or if you're going to use pen, so I'm giving a lot of little tips here. You can actually crumple a piece of paper. There's something that happens to our brains when we create on textured paper that releases perfectionism too. So you can crumple a piece of paper and draw on it and scribble on it, and it just, because it already looks messy, there's a freedom that opens up. So those are some tips.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I'm a texture person, and I'm a color person. When my kids were lucky enough to go to a Steiner school, Waldorf Steiner, and they first learned to paint wet on wet. So they actually use wet paper and watercolors, and I've still got some of them. They're just beautiful, and it's so forgiving. There's no harsh lines. I think that's what I find really difficult with textures, is it's harsh. So I just love this idea. I love you're bringing out, my kids are all so much older now and past that stage, and we let it go. So it's we're back down in lockdown here. I know in LA you're struggling with the same things, but I would just love this opportunity for women to get with their kids, or if you don't have kids, just start to play again. Oh my gosh, permission to play.
Absolutely. And it's a doorway to your intuition. So another piece I'll just add, I love the wet on wet. We definitely do a lot of that stuff in our community as well, is like really seeing this page or the canvas as a portal to the divine, a power greater than yourself, whatever that is for you. And you can just set an intention. So if you're speaking to your intuition or your higher self, you can literally write down, show me my connection to my intuition, and like let it go, and then play, like just whatever colors draw to you, whatever shapes, just let yourself go, knowing that it's a communication from your intuition. So it doesn't have to look a certain way. It's just providing you some information.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. And paper, of course, is one medium. I've been watching what you've been doing on social media with, or in your group with women, actually painting their bodies and faces.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, it was so beautiful. So, like, can you talk to us a bit about what you were doing there and the purpose behind it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think what you're talking about, it was a Facebook Live. I think it was titled "Let Your Freak Flag Fly." And yes. And just again, in that spirit of playing and allowing people to see how vibrant you really are. So the space that I've been playing with a lot lately. So I'm an illustrator, a painter, a writer, and what has been coming through the last few years is multimedia work. So bringing the art off the page and really embodying yourself as the piece of art. So that's where it stemmed from, is if you can just completely go wild and like do up your makeup and your outfit, just like kids, again, like how they dress up in these outrageous outfits. I remember when I was little, I had like 3 or 4 outfit changes a day. Like there was outfit changes, right? And makeup and hair, and I make these outfits up, and then I stopped doing that. And it's like, why? So it's bringing that back. And I was amazed by how many people played that game with me. People are craving to show and be seen in their vibrancy and their color.
Yeah. So what was some of the feedback from women, their experience of that?
There's a lot of thank yous, like, thank you, I needed that. And there, some of the feedback was like, this was really stretchy, but knowing that the group was doing it, I felt supported.
Yeah.
My own personal experience, Edwina, was I felt more myself in that crazy outfit than like, I felt like I was in my power.
Yeah.
Dressed up with the makeup and the wildness, and it freed something. It allowed me to step into this like next level of creative power. Yeah. And that's really the feedback that I received from the other people who played.
Yeah. I am just watching it, and I should have been involved in it, but watching and seeing some of the photos and stuff that came back, even just seeing it started to evoke that feeling in me. And I know I'm somebody that, my mother was very conservative, always very beautifully dressed, but conservative, and we had lots of boundaries and rules around how we showed up. But I have this piece in me that's really quite flamboyant, and I want to be in the velvets and the sparkles and the bright makeup, and just finding a way to unleash that power, that way of being that lights you up. And it doesn't mean that being sparkly and bright is necessarily right for everybody. It's not. But how do we find that unleashing that power of who we are, who we want to be, what lights us up?
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm going to bring it back to play, and that I think we take ourselves so seriously, and we put so much pressure on ourselves to like find the thing, find the purpose, find our true self. And I know when I get like that, like my creativity fizzles. And I think the beauty of this time, and is that like I consider myself an introvert, actually. And so, so the beauty of this time is like, we're in this, like there's these like little, like what we're doing here, there are these little like portals into these like our chrysalises, our cocoons. And so like what I'm playing around with is like, okay, I'm not going anywhere. So what would it look like? I'm just going to play like I did when I was a kid. And now the bold, audacious thing that I'm playing with is like, hey, guess what? I'm going to let you see me. I'm going to let you see me, and I'm going to allow that to inspire you to do the same, knowing that there's someone over here doing it. And I'm going to go a step further and create a circle to where we get to do it together. And like also not comparing yourself to other people. Like some women are ready and they're, you know, I run all these groups and like, you know, everyone's at a different place. Like some women are like the headdresses and the face painting, and they were like, I needed this. Some women are, the big stretch for them was wearing like a vibrant beret. And that was a big move for them, and putting some lipstick on, like a bright lipstick. And that was a big move. So yeah, like whatever like feels good. And so I don't go around with like headdresses on, like walking out, but it has opened something up where I'm like, I'm going to wear some really pretty flowers. Like I want to go out in the world and bring this into the world. So, but it has all been born out of play and light and vibrancy and the bravery to allow people to see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I feel like like there's different things that keep coming into my mind, and perhaps the answers keep being the same. But, I feel like there's that blocked feeling, can really come, because I do this vision work with people a lot. It's like, well, I don't even know what my vision is. Like how do we build a vision when we don't even know what's going on in the world at the moment? How do we build a vision if we don't know when things are going to go back to normal? Are we going to go back? What's the new normal going to be? So I feel like that can be really paralyzing for people.
Yeah.
And I've experienced it myself, even though I do this work. When we tune into what's going on out there, and like you, I'm actually an introvert as much as I love to be bold and bright.
Yeah.
Like being at home for me, it's been like,
totally.
I'm quite happy with this. But how do we support women to just let go of that blocked feeling?
Yeah. I talk about this a lot in my group, because there's a lot of pressure that like we need to, where's the vision? Like what's the vision? And I think, first and foremost, it's like the vision isn't out there or outside of yourself. Like we're all incubating, we're dreaming a new earth. And I think some of the paralysis comes from feeling really powerless or helpless. Yeah. And I think what we're seeing now is that we are co-creators of the new earth that we are stepping into. And so we do not have to be passive. Yep. So even like with what we are talking about, like if we are, creating a healed and transformed earth, or like in our little incubation pods right now, it's like, it's a time of exploration. It's a time of, and this is why I think art and creativity is so good, because it's like the language from yourself to yourself. Like you're in this dialogue with your spirit and intuition. Yeah. And, and then when the time is right, it's like sharing it with the world. And it's in that moment that we are actually creating the next thing. Yeah. So that's what I would say is like get into active creation. Mm-hmm. And I think for women, and I would see this in birth a lot, is some of the healing work, or a lot of the healing work, is healing our relationship to our ability to create, because that has been co-opted so much over thousands of years. So it's this reclamation of owning our ability to create. And when we create art and play in that creative space, we start to heal that connection. Mm-hmm. And like other connections start to come in. Our relationship to our intuition gets so strong, new ideas come in. Just leadership, like wanting to step into greater leadership starts to happen. So, I really do think that creative play is like the doorway into dreaming this new earth that we are creating.
I love that. So I would also love to talk to you about just switching things a little bit more
Yeah.
into the business world and what you've done in your
Yeah.
life. You were a doula, a midwife?
Yeah. As
Yeah,
a doula.
a doula. So moving from that space, I know there's a lot of women that are going to be tuning in that perhaps have lost jobs or are looking to transition into a different way to bring money into their lives, a different purpose, different work.
Yeah.
What was your transition from being a doula into the work that you do now?
It's a great question. I think you'll appreciate this too, because we both worked with a similar or the same mentor and had a kind of a similar, there's a little gap there in terms of what we stretch into. So yes, I was a doula for 10 years, supported 300 sweet souls coming earthside. And that happened in San Francisco. So I had this whole teaching, really. I approached that work as a student of creativity because I really wanted to learn how women surrender to their creative power and what happens when they shut it off, like what happens to the process. So that work was not only so fulfilling, but I was studying. And I was also supporting artists, blocked artists at that time too, and doing and working with shamanism. So there was this very natural feeling that work was completing. And Brent and I, my husband and I, were deciding to move to LA to really to take it to the next step with our art. So there was just kind of like this, I set the intention that I was going to be complete with the birth work. And then we moved to LA and, I thought that things were going to pick up a lot quicker than they did. So there was a year that was challenging. Like I was trying everything. Like I was building, I forgot how long building a practice could take when you're just trying to do it on your own. But, I was doing it, we were making it. And there was, what happened? Like just by the grace of spirit, I was invited to this event and I knew I needed to work with a mentor. Like that was very, very clear. Yeah. And I remember sitting there at the event, our business mentor at the time, and she was speaking and I was like, it felt like the clouds parted and I was like, okay, that's what I need to do. Yeah. And I think the part that's really important for your community here is in terms of boldness, all of this, and I know you have a great story too with this, is I was so scared. Like I knew I wanted to work with her, but I did not know how I was going to pay. Like I did not know how I was going to do this investment. I had enough for the down payment, but the yes was so strong and my trust in myself was so activated. I was like, I'm doing this. Yeah. And I went for it. And I was like, okay, I guess I get to come out of retirement. And I made a big deal of retiring as a doula. I'm going to come, eating my pride. Yeah. I'm going to come out of retirement. I'm going to take a few births because I know that, first of all, it's fulfilling work. And I know that this is it's so natural to me. It's going to support the next move. So that's what I did. I came out of retirement for about 6 months, went very strongly into this new path as an entrepreneur, and shifted it. And I remember being in the shower a few months in, still not sure how I was going to do it every month, but thinking how this particular mentor wasn't charging enough for how much I was getting. So, I think the pivotal thing there is once you decide that you're going to be an entrepreneur and really go for it, talk about audacious, bold steps that you're going to take. It has been one of the most fiercely spiritual paths that I've ever been on, because the level of trust in spirit, trust in myself that I've had to go through has just been on steroids. Yep. So, and then it continues. And now I went really, really strong, for 4 years, really, really hardcore with it. And I'm in a different place now. There's a releasing that's happening too. And I see it very much as like mothers of small kids, how those first few years are pretty intense. And then there's this next like kind of layer, like there's more flow, like you're more familiar. So that's kind of the stage that I'm in right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it is truly audacious. And I do remember that phase. And it's, I've said a few times within this series, the most fabulous things are on the other side of that crazy fear. It is that, but, as you talked about so beautifully, finding that intuition, when you know, and you just have to trust it. The first time I signed up with that business coach, we were with the same person. I definitely didn't have the money, and I had all this academic background that I thought was going to make me my income, but I just had this block. It wasn't actually what I was supposed to be doing, so I could never make it work. I didn't know that in my head, but it was here. And then when I came across this next possibility, it was a massive decision, and I cleaned houses to pay for it. That's how and it was just like, take that leap. And if every cell in your body is like, oh my gosh, you're probably on the right path. And then it's like, you just make it work, do whatever you can. And it was worth it. It was worth it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you talk about activating your wealth through art.
Yeah.
In your blueprint. So, we can support women to trust that intuition and take that leap. But what's the next step?
Oh, that's a good question. So once they take the leap?
Well, you have something that, activate wealth through art. So, so what's that process?
Well, so that process, so I work with a lot of artists and healers and women, and there's so many stories around like struggle, so much attachment around like the starving, struggling artist, healer. So that particular process is to really start exploring this old paradigm and this old belief system, because I believe, the women and the creatives are the leaders of this time. And so if we are buried underneath these stories of lack and unworthiness, it's really hard to step into our power at this next level. So that's an art process that, goes deeply into unraveling those old money stories and creating activated art, which is, the process that that we do in our community, where it's intentional art that is actually holding the energy of the new paradigm that you're stepping into. So it's creating a piece of art that you can like pour your prayers into, you can meditate with. I created a wealth portal, and this is what this program was born from. And I sat there and I meditated. It was large like this. Yeah. And I meditated with it every day. And when I would literally, I am not even joking you, feel physically my body open when I would look at it. And so I was there with it like every day for 3 months, and my income like tripled that year working with this piece. And then what was really interesting was I felt really complete with it. Like, okay, I think I'm done with it. Let's put it up on Instagram to offer, to sell. It sold in 2 hours. So then I made the most income out of that piece I ever have. It was this very large piece. So, the whole thing with wealth and wealth creation through art is again, really breaking down these old money stories, also getting really clear on what wealth means to you. That has definitely transformed for me over these last 4 years. And, these practices that allow you to open up to receiving and knowing that you are worthy to be supported financially so you can do your work in the world. And you can do this through art processes.
I'm picturing a spiral for some reason.
Oh.
I'm curious.
Draw it, paint it, sister.
Yeah, it's like yeah, when you said portal, maybe that's what it
Yeah.
conjures up for me.
Yeah.
It's interesting how evocative these words can be and how it, yeah, just it's there.
It's there. What color is your spiral?
Blues and greens.
Mm-hmm.
Blues and greens.
Mm-hmm.
I just got my mother's voice in my head. Blues and greens should never be seen. It's like together or something. Isn't that
Oh,
funny? Yeah,
those are two of my favorite colors to put together,
I
actually.
know. And I actually love red and pink together too,
Yeah.
which is supposed to be a no-no.
Wow.
Rules. Let's let go of the rules, huh?
Yeah, let go of those rules. And a lot of those rules are put in place to suppress power. So
Yes.
most likely those two colors, actually, this is why I'm looking at paintings right here. Those two colors together, those color combinations are powerful.
Yeah.
They evoke some kind of healing and transformation. So it's like you want to go into the intuition, and those voices, they might get really strong right before you do it.
Yeah.
And then you do it, and it's like this flooding of like power because you find it beautiful. And that voice kind of fades away.
Yeah. What is there a meaning for orange? I'm curious because this is a color that's really just drawing me at the moment.
Yeah. What do you feel like when you look at orange or you tune into it?
Do you know, it's a bit rebellious. It's bold and it's a little bit rebellious. Like people don't like orange. So I'm like, I'm going to like orange. It's bold and it's just a little bit rebellious. That's what
Yeah. Yeah. So a creative challenge, if you choose to accept it,
bring it on.
is to wear something orange,
Yeah.
either at your next interview or like go on a walk in your neighborhood and just orange it up and just own it.
Okay. Challenge accepted. Do you know the only orange piece of clothing I think I have is a fairly nana-ish cardigan, a wool cardigan. I might need to go shopping.
Yeah, get something awesome and orange.
Yeah, that feels fun. That feels fun. So I think I don't know if there's anything on your heart that I haven't pulled out. One of the questions that I love to ask in this series is if you were to think of the most audacious, bold, daring thing you have ever done, what comes in? I'm sure there's many things, but is there one thing that comes in?
Oh, yeah. It was standing in front of a group of 60 people and declaring that I was going to create my first multimedia performance based on a world of cosmic fairies. And it was going to be live and live streamed, and I was going to do it. And that moment, it was this feeling of like, this is what I was meant here to do. And now I've just said it. And I did it and I created it. And when I was on stage, I'm not kidding, Edwina, just not the thought that came through while on stage was, I did what I came here to do.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I don't know, that felt really, that was a big moment.
So multimedia, meaning like it was video, and like, does that mean, I'm just not sure what that term means.
Sure. So it can mean a lot of things. So what I created was, it was a performance. Okay. And a live performance and a live ritual called The Butterfly People in the Dreaming Tree. And it was about this ancient cosmic tribe of butterfly people. And the Dreaming Tree is the meeting place between humans and the butterfly people. And the butterfly people have these songs, poetry, dances to teach humans to aid in their transformation. It was a collaboration. I led a group of like 30 artists. There was dancers, shamans, singers, and I was the narrator. And we made costumes, sets. And so there was a live audience, and then we live streamed it as well.
I want to see it.
I'll send it to you. It's on YouTube.
Oh Oh, I'd love to see it. Do you know, there's something that, one of the things when you were in my coaching space that you used to talk about was surrender. And that's a word that is just so triggering for me. It's like giving up. It was like, it was, like the pressing against a brick wall. But it just keeps coming into my mind as you're talking about this. It feels like the space to just be creative, to be messy, to play with color, to just have fun, to play, feels like a space to surrender. There's no rules. We don't have to worry about right and wrong, good and bad. It's just this fabulous space to surrender and play. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I know that you have a beautiful gift for our audience. Could you take a minute to tell them what that is?
Absolutely. So it's a shamanic journey to your divine feminine power. And so the shamanic journey is an active form of meditation that allows you to travel into the world of energy and spirit and connect to your guidance. And the divine feminine archetype is so pivotal right now. It is, this archetype is the one that is guiding you and your creativity. It guides transformation. It is guiding the birth that is happening on the planet at this time. So when you have a strong connection to your divine feminine archetypes, it's this potential feeling of relaxing and being held so you can receive. And, one thing I just want to share about what you just said too, like when you asked, is there anything else that I want to share, is like, it sounds really funny, but like, do what you like. Do what you like. It's like even thinking as an entrepreneur, the way that I used to take notes how I thought I should take notes. And they were like black pen and just, they were just boring. And what has changed is like, no, actually, I like to make notes that are filled with stars and hearts everywhere in different colors, and I will actually use those notes. Yeah. So just do what you want.
Yeah. Yes. I've got to share this because this was a gift that you gave me a couple of years ago.
Oh.
That actually set me on my entrepreneurial journey, and I was making lists and trying to work out how I was going to bring the women into my life that needed what I offer. And you said just draw 12 hearts and then you get to fill those hearts, and that's exactly what I did. I won't hold it up for too long because their names are in there. But that was, that was a process, and that's what worked. Not having this kind of checklist of having to be perfect and get it right and say exactly the right thing. And it just came from my heart. And then all of a sudden, a different world opened up to me. It sounds so simple, but that's what works.
Totally. And it isn't linear, like when we're working with our intuition, it's colorful, it's circular, it's working in a different realm.
Beautiful. You are such a gift to this world and to women everywhere, Alexis. Thank you so much for this interview. It's just been beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And thank you so much.
Oh, and Edwina, thank you for all of the beautiful work that you do in the world. Your community of women, they are so lucky that you are supporting them and holding space for them. And I'm so honored to be part of this.
Thank you. Oh, how delicious was that interview. So much fun. Oh my goodness. Permission. The beautiful Brene Brown, she writes herself a permission slip, and that's what I think of with the work that Alexis does and what we've just talked about in this interview. So let me write you a permission slip to play, have fun, surrender, get creative. It may be playing music for you, or it may be drawing, painting, dressing up, makeup, or whatever it is for you that feels a little bit outside the everyday. Get creative, have fun, play, and enjoy. I'd love you to take this opportunity to really take action on this and tap into that beautiful, powerful intuition in creating your vision for the days, weeks, months, years to come. All right, that's it from me today. So much love, and bye for now.